Hello, everyone. I guess that this is going to be the webinar that I speak English again. Thank you for coming, everyone. If you been in present, you can turn on the camera and say hi a little bit. I saw a little bit of Neil before. Alex, thank you again for coming. Amy, I'm not sure last time we met or not, but thank you very much for coming into this webinar together. So no turn on. All right. Okay. So anyone want to turn on? No. So in that case, I'm gonna share my presentation and then we're gonna start very soon. Okay. So thank you very much again for joining. The psychology behind toxic culture. It is quite a passion um, topic that I was working with a lot of organization, individual and organization and the team as well. So I'm sure that since you be here together, welcome Ka Asard. So we are talking about understanding the psychology behind toxic culture. What is culture actually before we going anywhere further? Toxic culture or any culture, good culture, bad culture, or whatever it is, the culture is the set of agree upon thinking, feeling, behaving that people believe that is good to do, right? So the set of thinking that is coming in, thank you for coming. So Chris say hi. Hello, June. Thank you for coming, dear. So what we are doing here is just to learn that what is culture mean. Culture is agree, set upon of the behavior that set of the culture accepted and then either consciously or unconsciously it is agree in that culture. Either you agree through the community that you live in, through the family, or through the culture of the organization. Thank you, Murray, for coming. Hello, Bokai. Hello again. Thank you for coming. Swadika. So again, since I see all the name here, I'm gonna conduct in English purely, no Thai in here, because everyone understand English very well. So we're gonna do that together. So let's just deep dive together. Understanding workplace behavior, unconscious bias, and the driver of sustainable behavior transformation. I don't know that I could say that I'm lucky or jackpot that I often work with the organization who happen to have some sort of toxic behavior or toxic culture in a way that create not so psychological safety to the staff. And then I was just so passionate that if we just only know that we're able to speak up, we're able to find the supporting group in the culture or community, when the person that been affected by the toxic culture doesn't have to feel alone or feel like a victim in that. So that's why we're going to raise awareness together in this training, in this webinar together. All right. So let's just see, understand the people first. Hello, Niels. Welcome, my dear.
Oh, how are you?
Very, very well. Thank you
Sorry
for
for
being
joining late.
here. We're going to see that how we're going to understand the people, exploring the human behavior patterns, neurological, the threat response, and why the individual responds in the different situation and different identity or individual or unique work environment. What does it mean that the reaction of human patterns? What does that mean, pattern? Pattern is the repetitions of something that happen over the time again and again and again. And guys, we all have a patterns. We have a pattern of responding to something that we either like it or not like it. So this pattern could be a positive pattern that we could know how to respond to it and keep it. And in a way, this is why our company Coachology teach NLP, because we help individual and including me, I'm getting better and better every day because of it. I learn my own patterns and help my clients and organization to learn what's their pattern that is helping them, supporting them to become a better self, a better leaders. And then also to learn that what kind of patterns that they not so effective or empowered to themselves as a leader and to other as well. So let's just say that organization that have a pattern, we focus on the toxic first. Organization that have a pattern of rewarding the performance of the people without seeing what that individual who have a high performer could attack or could diminishing other people who doesn't have a directly performance directly to the organization. Like for example, some organization reward the sales director or sales people over the IT or operational because the IT and operational is the supporting roles. It's not the performance role that make the money to the organization. You see where I'm coming from? So when that is the pattern, that's create the psychological unsafety in the organization. That's called the pattern of toxicity. When that kind of organization have that pattern, what could do with the staff neurological? What do you think, guys? You can chat with me, you can talk to me. The neurology, the nervous system will feel fright all the time that what is going to happening to them. That is create burnout, stress inside the body. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that will be the threat response to I would not dare to share my idea or speak up in any shape or form because I wasn't fall into the pattern of company recognize the high performance. I better keep myself safe without saying it, unseen and unheard at the corner of the room, right? So that could be, and it's over time, it's become a norm of that organization. The individual response will become a very hectic, or they could create the little pocket, which is called a gang of talking a lot or gossip a lot and without doing anything. They just have a gangs on that, and then that could clear their stress a little bit. But it's still, right? It's still because it's still inside the body and the dynamic of the organization is not changing, right? So that's one of the pattern. All right. So let's see who's talked to me. Oh, sorry. It's in Thai time, right, Amy? No worry at all. Yeah, some of the it is Thai time. Next time I will say it correctly. Right. Next one. So let's just see that how is that affect our brain under the threat, right? I also learning neurology right at this moment, and also we both Luke and I is the trainer under Dr. Joe Dispenza. So let's just see this threat vs safety dynamic. When the workplace, which is we just talked about, environment lack of psychological safety, the brain perceives social rejection as a physical threat, right? In the primitive brain and biology, human doesn't make a difference between psychological unsafety or the physical unsafety. So it has the same meaning that whatever they don't feel emotional safety, social rejection, humiliations, it's equal physical threat, something that could harm the physical, mental, and everything throughout the body. So that is the damage that you don't know the behind toxic culture, right? And then let's see that just amygdala hijack, high stress trigger, fright, fight, freeze, fawn. Response is severing restriction, rational executive decision making. What does that mean? The whole body, it will be like a cocktail, right? What does that mean? Have you ever have a Sunday cocktail, margarita, Long Island, and things like that? But in one go, you have a 10 margarita plus Long Island and cosmopolitans and everything in one go. So how is that gonna go to the body? That just one staff, right? And then it's a group of the staff feeling fright, fight, or freeze. So it's a chemical imbalance of the staff in the organization. That would be fun to play with in those organizations. So how people gonna react if the chemical that demand the happiness or the threatening inside the body is very high. Whatever interaction, brainstorming, or any working will be very, very difficult because when we have high emotional, the intelligence is very low, right? So there is no way that the brain will function in a normal rate. It will function as running away from the threat all the time. And then next one will be defensive behaviors, toxic action, gossip. You create a little pocket everywhere and gossip in a different thing to different way. And then one day you bump into a pocket that gossip about you. Aggression, right? Withdrawn and often stem from neurological coping mechanism. That is a chronic stress, which is called in neurological, we call contract. The whole body is contract, the shoulder lift up, the back is so tight. That's we call office syndrome, that we have to go to the spa and then untangle the nerve line by line, and then go to the whole scenario of stress, unable to sleep. So that's behind the toxic culture. The role of trust, safe environment stimulate oxytocin and dopamine. When we in the unsafety environment, there is no way that oxytocin and dopamine will play. It will be just the chemical of bad chemical that directly to the body. So it's disrupt your creativity. It has the producing that you need to take risk all the time. So it's in the fright mode all the time. All right, it's interesting, right? So why we respond differently? Because we perceive information according to NLP. We perceive the information two times, right? We're listening to our body and then we do internalize perception and filter. And then we send that information through the people later. So let's just go to the internal perceptual filter. Every employee process event through personal history, value, baseline stress, resilience. People have baseline differently. Some people that been trained very well in the way before that they could tolerate the stress by the consciously, they don't look stressed that much. But in the nervous system, it still carry a lot of neurological chart and nervous system chart, which is it gonna affect to our human by underperforming because we're not able to become the person that we are, right? And then single piece of critical feedback, just a normal feedback, it will be trigger the offensive, defensive, and attack in another way, right? Environmental driver, organization structure, power imbalance, unclear law and expectation reward the system, heavily dictate behavior, culture that reward the cutthroat competition, incentive, toxic behavior regard of individual ethic. I mean, one of my client that we almost gonna engage. She sent the country manager who is performing very well under the real estate sector. He's doing triple of the sales target that is happening. This is a regional sale. And he create the painful to the staff and organization. He's in charge of MD. But everyone trying to tell him to softening and then be take more leadership roles. for the people in the team, for everyone to feel psychological safety and then working as a team. But he doesn't feel that he need to change when the policy up there is only calculate the number that he made. So why he had to change? So the company culture reward the competition, the numbers. So everyone under him suffer. And then to the point that later on, I think so many good employee quit because of cannot work with him. And it's a lot in the organization that we working with. So as you are the team, if you happen to be here and then you can make a difference to your organization, what kind of organization you want to make? And then the best way to raise the awareness of toxic culture is just to raise the awareness, to know that what is the toxic, what is the behavior and culture that need to keep, what it need to go. And it need to be frankly and openly talked through organization, not just kept hidden, right? So understanding bias. Wow, this is a very, very interesting, right? How is it that bias show up? Uncovering unconscious shortcut, implicit assumption, how cognitive bias erode communication, fairness, and decision making. How is that bias show up? Bias could be in so many things, right? Nationality, gender, in some department that seem to show off the performance more the other department that is supporting roles. So the bias could be favoritism to the department that is having obvious performance when the other department doesn't show that obvious result. So this is the way that it has to back on that how we calculate, how do we address this bias, right? And then there is a bias that some certain age, some certain gender, some certain nationality should or shouldn't do certain thing. This is among of so many things that we need to be able to say so and say it out loud without aggression. And that will raise the awareness of organization. So key bias, fearing toxicity. Let's just look at one by one. Affinity bias, internal narrative, assumption, and cognitive filter that shape how we perceive workplace, event, or intention. So it's a narrative that we look into the certain thing. So let's just say that the work that is require a lot of physical, that could be a bias, perceiving that certain gender could do that physical performance better than certain gender, right? Or certain age. That is bias. Instead of looking into the performance, that could perceive as a toxic culture as well. Confirmation bias. This is very, very interesting, this one. Selectively interpreting action to reinforce pre-existing label, perpetually toxic narrative and hindering genuine and conflict solution. So let's just say that a pocket of some people saying that the person is doing and performing something very bad. It starts as a humor first. It starts as an opinion first. And then someone or some other people saying something that regarding to that area, that is confirmation bias. So I would call gang up in a way. Attributes earlier, blaming bad outcome, bad moral characteristic while attributing an own failure to external circumstance, breeding, and distrust. So this all bias is actually create the distrust, unsafety, and unable to speak up. The cause of workplace bias. 70% of employees silent late. This is on the thing that can measure. Imagine that what we couldn't measure because people couldn't speak up, what is the real number, right? When the unconscious bias and psychological threat dominate in workplace, 70% of the team member withhold key idea, withhold a lot of information because of they fearful of bias retaliation, right? So I better kept quiet. It's happened in Asia a lot that Asia and especially Thai don't speak, but I'm sure that it's quite general to around the world that if they don't feel trust and they don't feel safe, they're not gonna say it, right? This systematic silent degrade communication quality and then make it a severe loss in the organization decision because missing information, missing the big piece of the information to make a solid strategy and solid action, right? 70% as we can calculate, right? So before we going with that, I would just research something and I want to share with you a little bit of yeah. So the organization of toxic, it's create something like that we call psychological safety collapsing. So when there is a psychological safety mistrust or unsafety in one person, usually it's spreading through organization. That means one person doesn't feel safe if it's a real solid toxic behavior and toxic belief and culture, that will spread throughout the whole organization. As we mentioned before, the culture is the set of agreed upon thinking, feeling, and action and behavior of that organization, of that community, right? And then later on, it's become a norm of belief, the belief that used inside of organization. So the belief of, lately I hear some country, I'm not going to say which country, they're talking about using the budgeting of the country of 12 billion, right? But then there is an unexplanation as the first key fundamental of 10 million whatever currency. And then they say that this one, it just cannot find the receipt, cannot check with it. And then they say that it just only small money from the big scam of 12 billions. So that is become a norm of that parliament to believe that a missing piece of information is just normal, is fine, or it's only because of it's not even 1% of the total budget. That show the toxic culture and the norm and the belief in that organization, which is a very sad, but it's very true as well. So yeah, once when you see this and think it as a whole, you see lots and lots of things that is related. Fear become the primary management mechanism. When the toxic organization is in place, it usually we do the fear-based. That particular person is implant the threat, the intimidation, the humiliation, and exit pressure to get the job done, and then create the insecurity around the staff. That is called fear-based mechanism. Leadership behavior become cultural contagious. What's that mean? It means that employee pay more attention on how the leader do, tolerate, reward, and punish. So because of they fearful of what other move that they're gonna do, they're gonna keep outer between the leader behavior and themselves to fit with their leader in order for them to feel safe and secure in that organization. Right. Okay. I'll come back to this. Changing behavior, practical framework for building behavior awareness, embedding healthy communication, habit shifting from toxicity to psychological safety. So we know the fundamental of how it's whole as a culture because of the set agree of behavior in the culture that they agree upon. So we know that. either unconsciously or subconsciously, which is in NLP. We will teach a lot about that because in the subconsciously, it is running about over 95%. So many things is run automatically. We're not able to aware until we make it aware, right? So the first one, that's why we need to observe and create the self-awareness in ourselves first and in the organization. Identify the personal trigger, bias pattern, automate stress response in daily interaction. So let's just say, I will put one organization that I work with without telling what is the organization. So it's alcohol industry, right? So this one, they identify personal trigger, which is, it is the industry of party and fun, right? So people who perform and sell and get the revenue into the company, they perform by the number. So these people is a gang of party. So internally, they happen to be party and happy all the time. So they're making a judgmental over the supporting group that the other person is or look like a grandma, not dressed up and things like that, and make fun with it. So that is the norm that the one person create into the gang of complaining. So the organization become what? Competing inside internally instead of competing with the other outside to get the revenue and grow, right? So that's kind of trigger and bias over the fashionable, over the supporting role, over the time frame. So second one, interruption. What's that mean? Pause during high friction moment to choose constructive dialogue over defensive reaction. So how is this show up? During the time that I work with this organization, I work with the supporting role, which is, I'm not going to name position. She was the head of this role. And then I asked her to pause and look into the pattern inside. She see that she is acting as a hen, or what we call a mother to her team, because all of her team been humiliated and been blamed from not fashion enough from the performance team. So whenever it's happened, she is stand up and attack back instead of because it's over high emotion. So she attacked back to the performer, high performer. So it's a loss and win. And this is over 5 years. So that's once when we work together, you see the dynamic, the pattern of happening, and so many pattern. But doing this, you need a lot of neutralization, also the sincerity, also the courage to look into it, because it wasn't easy to look into, right? And then self-aware interruption of our own daily basis. Either we right or we wrong, or we victim or we the aggressor. It need to be a very honest process to check this. The third one is habit rewiring. What is that? Adopt action listening, active listening, compassionate feedback model, and structure one-on-one check-in. So in her case, she need to be able to sit down and look through what is painful pattern that she co-create to have this toxicity happening in between the department. See where I'm coming from? So when we do a coaching, they call executive coaching together, and then we rewrite it that whenever it happened, what she should do instead. So she document what the incident is, what is happened, when it's happened, and what is the evidence base that is happening, and document long enough and many cases enough to get people to hear her because of the when the culture is so favoritism on the performer, the one that is not so perform is not going to be able to say much. And then that could do something to the, if it's an original, if you can make people hear you in the document that you making too, right? And then the next one is culture norm, establish, share accountability and reward psychological safety and vulnerability across all levels. This can happen only the HR of that organization is serious and neutrals and want to make different. Sadly, in the organization that I was working with, they wasn't implant that. So at the end, this lady, she need to quit that organization. So that's happened. And she quit for good because at the end of the day, she find that she doesn't fit with that. So either that you have an impact to change the toxic organization, or you learn that you're not fit with this organization and you find a better organization to fit in. Right. Building positive habit, intentional cultural reset. It need a team of the responsibility who care and who want to make different and make change. Shifting away from toxic dynamic require concrete daily practice rather than abstract policy and statement. There was one organization that I worked through as well. The policy become just a policy. It's never been well practiced. Like one of the organization that I work with, they implement DEIB. And then when I went into train, they asked me not to present anything around gay because of the top doesn't agree with the gay things, which is kind of hypocrisy in a way. And but what do you do when you're in the middle of it and you don't want to do it, but you're gonna have to do it? So I insert a couple of my way of saying it, but they don't want it, to be honest. They just like yeah, we implement the IB, but we just cannot have gay topic in this one. So I'm like, all right, okay. So how is that going to be DIB? You see, that is happen in the organization that is not yet so higher conscious, so what we call, and is not yet implementing it yet. By embedding transparent communication loop, what is it? We also make a loop of our thinking, feeling, and acting, right? So this is one of the key in the NLP that we would talk about it, that what we think, so what we feel. And what we feel, so we behave. So if we think a good positive thought, we love the whole world, the action and the feeling will become love the world. But if we angry to the world, and we're gonna think about the thought of anger, and then we're going to behave like the person that anger. So it doesn't matter what level you come first, think or feel or act. It's all combined as a one, either toxic or either blossom. You choose. And one of the thing around NLP is just helping us to be able to capture or make ourselves aware that who we are and what we are, and it's an act that we need to put the muscle in so we can shining ourselves and then perhaps inspire others as well. By embedding transparent communication loops, new loops of the toxic one, right? So to introduce a little change. So what do? When we change things, do we change a big one, or do we steady change bit by bit, right? To make the effective change, we need to introduce bit by bit of the actions of the new behavior. If we do too much at one go, it's going to be collapsed because it's not built from the big foundation. Acknowledging unconscious bias, that is the courage and speak up and voice it out, need to happen to be able to speak to the right people that is safe for you to be heard as well. And you need to be in the position that you can do something or talk to someone that they can do something, meaning that you need to have a supporting system to do something very provocative in the organization. And rewarding peer support, team rebuild trust and psychological safety, right? Word of wisdom. Culture is not what we preach, it is what we tolerate. Behavior, reward, take an action, and practice every single day. This is an organizational culture. Right. So let's just say I want to show you a little bit more of if we don't change the toxicity in the culture, what it's going to be like. Power distance become excessive. Status matter more than expertise, right? So instead of admire or doing something with the person because of the person have capability, you do it because of you're fearful or because of the title, right, of the person that is a MDC or whatever it, right? So as a certain political party in certain country, again, I'm not saying it out loud, the identity might be because of my father in this role and in this position. That's why I become this role in this position. Also in the organization of family business, the kids being promoted is because according to the family title, it's not according to the experience or the expertise that they have. So that is questioning the employee and then questioning the authority in the leadership role, right? Blame replace accountability. In the toxic organization, people will avoid accountability in every shape or form and then blame someone for not doing something or not making things happen. Self-protection replace collaboration, right? Instead of collaborate to co-create something new and beautiful, we have to not doing it or doing it something else because of it. That is how self-protection that is happening. Otherwise, it will be they're expecting betrayal, right? Blame, and that's need to be shift in the psychological. Trust deteriorate through repeated micro breaching. How is that trust is breaching? Trust is breaching because a broken promise over a time. Remember when we were kids, right? And then one of our cousin relative parents promised us to do something, and then they broke that trust. Once is fine. Twice is still okay. But then when it hit the third, it's become the same thing, either in the individual base or organizational base. Uncertainty create chronic threat response, right? When we're talking about when we live in the organization, it is so toxic. We cannot expect anything that's certainty. So it create the chronic threat, chronic stressful in the body that we're talking about already, the psychological unsafety, nervous system, the contract into the whole body, the knot inside the stomach, right? It's become a cognitive bias inside our body. Emotional contagious spread toxicity. Once when we do this, live in the toxicity long enough, it is contagious and spread throughout. Have you ever seen in the organization that is slow coming in when they take lunch, they take 2 hours. When they're coming back, they're kicking slow and not responding to their work, and then they go back early. And that seemed to be the norm of organization because no one correct no one take the accountability. Talking about uh, some typical organization that I'm not going to say it out loud. Favoritism destroy perception of fairness, right? So when golden child or golden star in the organization, people demotivate to work in that organization or demotivated to shining or share the idea because of favoritism is never gonna get them something. It's never gonna take consideration. Competition become internal rather than external. We talked about this already. So that was something. So since we in together, I still have 5 more minutes. Anyone want to share anything? Any question? Any discussion? Mural, thank you for being here and thank you for turn on the camera all the time. Bokai as well. Anything? Any sharing at all? No? I want to know why you're interested in this toxic culture. I share mine first. I was working with a lot of personality, lots of leaders, and then I happened to see lots and lot performing. Start with favoritism, start with superiority, start with narcissism or narcissistic. Hello, and then I saw even misogynist or I don't know the terminology that hate the DEI. So I just found that we are just one and then we born with a unique and limited edition. If we can collaborate and co-create together, that could be beautiful. And the toxic personality, it's make pain to others. So who like to pray with me before I share the rest of it? That's why you're here. I'm sure that you're here because of something inspire you. Anyone? Okay, you want to say something, dear?
ขอบคุณค่ะ I was interested in this topic because I think as a leader of organization, we need to be reminded of a potential, and the potential can be negative and also can be positive. So we need to pause and learn and look around and see what is might happen in our organizations in the good way or bad way. But of course, if it's a bad way, then we need to act the right time.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. And very good to raise the self-awareness together. And Muriel, I see you unplug your microphone. Would you like to share?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because I do a lot of work with individual leaders, coaching, and they're operating in these environments. Sometimes they're helping contribute to creating these environments, but certainly they are trying to navigate. And so really understanding that one of the things that occurs to me is that often we're not so far away from who we were when we were children. And so all of the behaviors that we've developed because of the lived experiences and the environments, that all shows up in the workplace. So it sometimes looks like it's you're going into a
garden.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Because when we in the emotional overwhelming, the EQ is very low. So we instead of 30 or 40 something real age, we act like a 5 years old or 6 years old, right? In that,
Yes.
a bunch of 6 and 7 years old fighting in the workplace, that's not really a good way to see. And then someone need to be able to be ground enough to address and raise the awareness of that together.
Yeah.
So very, very inspiring. I mean, in our company also, I work with my partner, which has happened to be my life partner and my professional partner. So we just say that since we really passionate with this, we need to mindful that do not let 5 years old of you and 7 years old of me or 3 years old of me to fight over it when we managing the company together. So it is something that begin with awareness. And then when we able to seek the loops of the pattern, which is thinking, feeling, and action together, we able to find ourselves grounded, and then we can help other as well, that's why my husband and I was in this industry of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, for over 15 years. And then it's fascinating and helping a lot, including leadership, trauma, organizations, and also individual as well. Thank you, Muriel. What about you? คะคุณแก๊ป
Well, thank you for the information. I think this is quite resonating with what I also observe in my company. But the thing is, I feel that the management also need to recognize this, because sometimes they are high ups and they are not really like mingle with the people down here. So maybe they don't really observe that there's already some toxicity happening in the work round.
Yeah.
And I do like that you also mentioned that it never stopped by just one person. It always spread out. It's contagious. And I also think that is really true, because sometimes people complaining about one thing, and then it leads to like multiple problems being complained, and people just keep digging through problems and bring it up to discuss. And yeah, that's really, I would say, toxic if you need to be in that kind of environment every day. Even though you bring positivity into your workplace, but you're going to be overwhelmed by all the negativity that you are surrounded in.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Khun Kev. And also, we're just saying that if you want to be part of this new movement in the organization, do it smart, do it neutralize by collecting information and collecting the evidence. And then when you have that enough, if this management doesn't hear, there will be some management or even high up able to hear that. If it's and that's need a lot of courage, need a lot of persistence, need a lot of equality and grounded to be able to do that. Also need a supporting team. Whomever internal or external, do not do that alone, because I once seeing people trying to do this without fighting, do this just to make it nice and right for you and the people around you. So that will do. Neil, since you're on, my dear, a long time no see. So would you like
That's
to say
right.
something? Yeah.
Yes, thanks for this presentation. It's a very good refresher. Regarding the toxic culture, I think it is beyond organizations also. Just to raise this issue, I think it's very important for any individual to have a certain level of self-awareness. So, for instance, anger and things. I mean, we're all angry about certain things that happens, or within an organization, or within a group, or whatever. But it's very important to also look at your bias and to understand your anger. And this is easier said than done, of course. But one way is to be employing breathing techniques, yeah, and to hold before you say something, to take a pause, because in this way a lot of miscommunication can happen and actually create conflicts. So and just coming to outside the organizations, I've seen it in some groups too, that there is a lot of sometimes toxicity, but also sometimes a lot of cliquing, with certain negative bias. And I have seen this increasingly also in recent times. And maybe it's also because of what's going on in the world. A lot of people are fearful. I think we all are somehow. And therefore, I think it's very important to understand also yourself very well, because you can only make changes if you have the understanding yourself and can be the role model. So in a toxic culture, I think, yeah, I know in some Asian cultures it's difficult to speak up when there is toxicity, yeah, when there is a toxic boss.
Not a norm yet.
Not a norm yet, yeah.
Not a norm
But
yet.
I think if you know the way to approach it, and the way of communication, I
Yes.
think it can be done, yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes practice.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
and
very much.
sometimes a clever way is just maybe say, oh yes, just give an example or of something in another company or in another context that could be
Sure.
followed, in order not to be direct, this is indirect. What could we learn from that? Something like that. I applied that in a couple of cases and actually it did work. So
Thank
instead
you.
of confronting the person directly, you say, yes, but what about, and may I? And then what
Sure.
would you think about that? Yeah?
Very, very well. Yes, of course, Neil. And
Yeah.
as we are the leader and professional coach and
Mhm.
the people that is we need to fill in the tanks and also get the tools, which is
Mhm.
during the time that we emotional high up, we need
Yeah.
to have a certain group or certain people or certain knowledge to help it. And then if you're interested, but this is in the Thai course, right? This is on the number 5 to September. I have a NLP leadership certification coming, and some of us will be. And if anyone already study and then want to recap again, I will be very welcome. And the next round of in English one will happen in November, which is let me check with it. November, it will be on number 6 to number number um hang on, number 14 to number 18th of November. If you available for NLP certification, it's talking about consciousness, subconscious, and how you regulate emotional regulations on the day 4, day 5. We will deep dive into a very good one into the subconscious mind. How do we pause and how we actually manage ourselves first? How do we deal with the emotional in regulation and suppression and repression in that sense? And anyone that would like to just contact us. And we have another one as well. If you want to become a professional facilitator or trainer, look really passionate about this course, the 12th and 13th of September. And then the rest of it, I'm really grateful that you guys coming to join today. And thank you very much. And then we will come again with the webinar, all this in the topic that are passion to, and then we will see each other or send us the email or topic with that. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to see you all in the next webinar or somewhere in the world. Thank you very much, Ka. Have a
Thank you
very
very much.
Thank
afternoon.
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye,
You
สวัสดี
too.
ครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
Bye.
Bye.
Sawadika.
Bye.
Ah.